Love X Revenge. The wind swept across the wide plains like a restless spirit, carrying dust, silence, and the loneliness that had followed Ethan Cole for most of his life. His ranch sat miles away from the nearest town, a lonely stretch of land where the sky felt bigger than the world itself. People said Ethan was a man carved from stone, quiet, distant, and impossible to read. But beneath his silence lived a heart that had grown tired of solitude. For years, he had watched wagons roll past his land, carrying families, laughter, and futures that never seemed meant for him. When he finally placed an advertisement for a mail-order bride, he felt foolish, desperate, and strangely hopeful all at once. He imagined someone gentle, delicate, someone who would bring warmth to his cold house and soften the rough edges of his life. On the day the wagon arrived, Ethan stood near the old wooden fence, his hat pulled low, hands clenched tightly at his sides. His heart beat harder with every creak of the wheels. The driver slowed the horses, dust rising around them like smoke. Ethan scanned the passengers eagerly. Then she stepped down. The woman who climbed off the wagon was not what he had imagined. She was tall, broad-shouldered, and twice his size, with strong arms and a presence that seemed to fill the space around her. Her dress was simple but sturdy, her boots worn from travel. Her face was not delicate but striking, framed by dark hair pulled back in a loose braid. She carried a heavy trunk as if it weighed nothing. For a moment, Ethan thought there must be some mistake. The driver glanced at him and laughed softly. "You Ethan Cole?" Ethan nodded slowly. The woman turned toward him, eyes sharp but tired. "I'm Clara." The word felt heavy in the air. Ethan didn't know what to say. His mind raced with disappointment, confusion, and guilt. He had waited months, dreaming of a woman who fit the image he had built in his head. Instead, reality stood before him, solid, real, impossible to ignore. Clara studied his face, reading his thoughts without him saying a word. She had seen that look before. She had grown used to it. "If you don't want me here," she said calmly, "say it now. I didn't come all this way to beg." Her voice wasn't angry. It was firm, proud, and tired of being judged. Ethan felt something twist in his chest. He looked at her again, not as a disappointment, but as a person. He saw the dust on her clothes, the exhaustion in her eyes, the quiet courage it must have taken to step off that wagon knowing what she might face. "No," he said finally. "You can stay." Clara nodded once, as if she had expected nothing more. That night, the ranch felt different. Clara moved through the house with quiet efficiency, cleaning, cooking, fixing small things Ethan had ignored for years. She didn't try to impress him. She didn't try to charm him. She simply existed, strong and steady, like the land itself. At first, Ethan kept his distance. He spoke little, worked long hours, and avoided looking at her too closely. He felt ashamed of his initial reaction, yet unsure how to bridge the gap between them. But Clara did not disappear. She woke before dawn, helped with the animals, carried heavy loads without complaint, and laughed at the wind when it tried to push her back. The ranch hands, who had expected a fragile bride, stared at her with disbelief. "She's not what you ordered," one of them joked once. Clara heard it. She smiled, but there was something sharp behind her eyes. Ethan said nothing, but that night he couldn't sleep. Days turned into weeks. Slowly, something began to change. Ethan noticed how Clara talked to the horses, how they calmed under her touch. He saw how she listened when he spoke, even when his words were few. He realized she never complained about the harsh life, never asked for luxuries, never tried to be someone she wasn't. One evening, a storm hit the plains without warning. The wind howled, rain flooded the fields, and one of the barns caught fire after a lightning strike. Ethan ran toward the flames, panic gripping his chest. The fire spread fast, threatening the livestock inside. Before he could react, Clara rushed past him. She didn't hesitate. She broke open the doors, coughing through smoke, dragging frightened animals out one by one. The heat burned her skin, but she kept going until the last horse was safe. When the storm finally died, Ethan found her sitting on the ground, soaked and exhausted, her hands trembling. "You could have died," he said quietly. Clara looked up at him. So could they. In that moment, Something inside Ethan shattered. He saw not a woman who failed his expectations, but a woman who surpassed them in ways he had never imagined. From that day on, he stopped keeping his distance. They began to talk, slowly at first. Clara told him about her life, the towns where she had been mocked, the jobs she had lost because people thought she was too big, too rough, too different. She admitted she had answered the advertisement not for romance, but for a chance at a life where she might finally belong. Ethan listened in silence. He told her about his loneliness, his fear of opening his heart, his belief that he wasn't meant for happiness. Between them grew something fragile but real. But peace never lasts long. One afternoon, a group of strangers arrived at the ranch, well-dressed men with sharp eyes and expensive horses. Their leader introduced himself as Victor Hale, a wealthy landowner from the nearby town. Victor smiled too easily. "I heard you found yourself a bride," he said, glancing at Clara with thinly veiled amusement. "Interesting choice." Clara felt the insult immediately. Ethan's jaw tightened. Victor's real purpose soon became clear. He wanted Ethan's land. The ranch sat on a stretch of territory rumored to hide valuable resources. Victor offered money, promises, and threats in equal measure. When Ethan refused, Victor's smile faded. "Be careful," he warned quietly. "Some things can be taken, whether you agree or not." After that day, strange things began to happen. Fences were cut, animals went missing, supplies disappeared. Rumors spread in town that Ethan's ranch was failing, that his bride was a burden, that he was losing control. Clara heard every whisper. One night, she confronted Ethan. "Do you regret choosing me?" she asked. Ethan looked at her for a long time. "No," he said simply. For the first time, Clara believed it. Together, they decided not to run. They fought back, not with violence, but with truth and strength. Clara rode into town alone one morning. She spoke openly to the people who had mocked her, exposing Victor's schemes, revealing evidence of his sabotage. Her voice was steady, her presence impossible to ignore. People listened. Victor underestimated her. When the truth came out, his reputation crumbled. His threats lost power. The town slowly turned away from him and toward the ranch he had tried to destroy. When Clara returned home that evening, Ethan was waiting at the gate. The sky burned gold and red behind him. "You didn't have to do that," he said. "Yes, I did," she replied. "I'm tired of being invisible." Ethan stepped closer. "You're not invisible," he said softly. "You never were." For the first time, Clara saw something in his eyes she had never expected: love, unguarded and sincere. Months passed. The ranch flourished again. The silence that once felt lonely now felt peaceful. Ethan and Clara worked side by side, their bond growing stronger with every shared sunrise and every quiet night.